lots of stuff has been happening since I've been online last. So many things I'd like to cover. But right now I'm going to focus specifically on James O'Keefe from Project Veritas and his Twitter account. Okay, it was brought to my attention earlier that his Twitter account was suspended. So I checked it out myself, and as you can see, it's still there. But what's very strange then is if I try to go to the Twitter account on my mobile, see if I can bring that up here. Okay, so I thought that was very strange. So I thought it would be good to just go through James's Twitter page right now and maybe just look at some videos and things that he's been posting, just in case just in case I got lucky, or that just in case that they actually take the entire account down. I don't know why it's different on the mobile. If I check on mobile, it's suspended, but if I go in through the browser on the laptop, then it's still there. Maybe I don't know if they're applying some sort of mobile restrictions. I've seen things like that on Facebook before, where it operates differently on the app or on the mobile than on say a desktop. But so while and to be clear, I'm not too sure if his account is still active, because I had this open for a while and I just kept the page open just to make sure that I didn't lose it. I didn't want to sort of refresh and reload, or didn't want to take that chance. So I'm just going to go through and see what James has been posting. Okay. But if you don't know, I can see there his first video, the pinned tweet, is relating to this. So if you're not aware, James, no, he's released loads of he's like a modern day WikiLeaks in a sense. But different. But I mean WikiLeaks in the sense of exposing what's happening in the world. But his latest expose is quite a shock to CNN, where he has actually been recording their conference calls for the last 2 months. And then he's releasing all of those calls so we can see what's actually going on behind the scenes. And I just saw a video where he actually called, I think it was Zucker or whatever his name is from CNN, the president, must be, of CNN. We'll see here in a second. This might be it actually, where he tells him that he's been recording them for 2 months. And we'll see how this goes in here. So it says here, James O'Keefe, guerrilla journalist, Project Veritas. Mm. 1 million followers. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw that earlier on, and it was 999k, 999,000. So he's past the million mark. pin tweet. Now again, I'm going to have to check this recording afterwards because I'm not too sure. I'm hoping as I play these videos it will record the audio, which is why I'm doing this. I'm doing it this way because if I did this live, I don't think, like if I did this in a Facebook live, I don't think the audio, it would record the audio from this, the whatever way that the setup works. So by doing it this way, I'm hoping it will record the audio. So says here, breaking December 1st, breaking Project Veritas live streams President Jeff Zucker's 9 a.m. editorial phone call with CNN senior leadership. Hashtag expose CNN. I think there is also a hashtag going around, hashtag CNNTAPES. So, here we go.
We'll do the rest of the call a little bit later.
We're going to release those recordings today at 7 o'clock, so stay tuned. It's going to be fun.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye.
So you just heard me talk to the president of CNN, Jeff Zucker, and inform him that that we are going to release a number of recordings today. I unmuted myself into the conference line, and they're still on there. They're listening to me right now. This is being live streamed for those of you still on the call. And we've recorded for a while, and we have clips of various producers talking, the president talking, describing their motives, describing their political philosophy, describing how they don't cover certain things, and certain political parties tell them to cover things a certain way. Lots of little clips that takes us into the minds and hearts of our people, powers that be, that inform us. Because
just to say, this right now has, I don't know if you can see clearly, but it says 4.2 million viewers so far. This is huge.
This government is downstream from media. So we're going to be releasing these tapes thanks to one of our sources. One of our brave insiders has given us this information. And as you can see, they're still milling about on the call. They're listening to me right now. They have to, quote, change their system and get a different dial-in, I guess, now because we've compromised the dial-in. Project
Well, I guess we need to change the channel, huh? Change the number, huh?
Is that Zucker there?
Star 6 again.
You're unmuted.
Hey, Jeff, you still there?
Yeah.
They're still on there. Yeah,
You're
so
muted.
we don't want to change the channel, really. We want to stay on the channel. We think it's important for the American people to know how you make the sausage, right? How you, to quote Noam Chomsky, manufacture consent. You know, consent should not be manufactured. It should be informed. People should be an informed populace to make informed decisions. So there you have it, folks. Live streaming the CNN 9 a.m. conference call. It was abruptly ended when James
Thanks
O'Keefe...
for using the AT&T
Here it is.
teleconferencing service.
AT&T, isn't that the company that Zucker is being fired from? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they abruptly ended the conference call when I dialed in, and unfortunately for them, we've been recording for a while. So what else can I say? There's not much else to say. I think my message to you, for those watching the live stream, is get ready, because tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, we're going to start releasing these little tapes, little clips, little audio bits of Zucker, the president, who else? Chalian, David Chalian, vice president.
Stephanie Becker.
What's the name?
Marcus Mabry.
Marcus Mabry. Who's the other man that made the comments about, that we recorded about white supremacy?
That was Mez Mabry.
Marcus Mabry made some comments, and we'll be airing those for all to hear and see. And it's important that we hold accountable the mainstream media. The media has to be held to account. They are hurting the American people with their lies, their innuendo, their slander, their defamation, their hyperbole. And I think Mr. Zucker is shaking in his boots right now. I think he's very afraid of what might be coming. So I don't really know what else to say, guys. I mean, content is king. And we were trying to live stream the beginning of the call, but we didn't know when Zucker was going to come in and interject and ask the question. So we just sort of got there. We sort of got in just in the nick of time. What else?
More insiders.
Yeah, more insiders.
More insiders. Thank you to the brave insider who supplied us the information for the call. VeritasTips@protonmail.com. Stay tuned. What's the hashtag?
CNNTAPES.
Stay tuned. Hashtag CNNTAPES. Released today. Multiple installments every day, each day, this week. It's going to be great. This is going to be a great thing. It's going to be a great thing for our republic and for our democracy to have the media being held accountable. You need to hold the media to account. Stay tuned. Hashtag CNNTapes tonight, 7 o'clock.
So just at the beginning of that, I actually saw the video of just what happened just before that, and that's where he had just told them that he sort of unveiled himself, his presence after 2 months of recording the conference calls. So I'm just going to play the very beginning of it. What happens is that the president says, "Okay guys, I want you to clear the call, and we're going to set up a new system and we'll talk again later on." And he goes, the president says to his staff, "Thanks guys, have a good day." And James O'Keefe, very tongue-in-cheek, replies,
Washington.
You're unmuted.
Hey, Jeff Zucker, you there? Hey,
Yes.
This is James O'Keefe. We've been listening to your CNN calls for basically 2 months, recording everything. Just wanted to ask you some questions if you have a minute. Do you still feel you're the most trusted name in news? Because I have to say, from what I've been hearing on these phone calls, I don't know about that. I mean, we got a lot of recordings that indicate you're not really that independent of a journalist.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. So everybody, in light of that, I think what we'll do is we'll set up a new system, and we'll be back with you. We'll do the rest of the call a little bit later.
We're going to release those recordings today at 7 o'clock, so stay tuned. It's going to be fun.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye.
So you just heard me talk to the president of CNN, Jeff Zucker, and inform him that that we are going to release a number of recordings today.
so exciting times. Let's see how much of this is actually announced in the rest of the mainstream media, including CNN, or will there be a big cover-up? Already with Twitter suspending the account, I mean, it just goes to show what sort of, we all know the circles anyway. So next in line then, James tweeted, "Mark or Levin, CNN is trash, pure and simple." Same story. InfoWars then has a post on the tips. This is going to go like wildfire. Special, 1 second, let's see. So this is from 3 hours ago. No, this could have been 3 hours ago from 2 or 3 hours ago when I first had the page open. It says special edition retracto number 328. Steph Williams goes on epic tweet spree to retract her false statement that I was a convicted felon. Enjoy.
Hello everyone, welcome to Project Veritas headquarters in the infamous Wall of Shame, where journalists' reputations go to die, where journalists print retractions and corrections and articles questioning our journalism ethics. That's why it's so crazy. That's why it's so ridiculous. This one may be one of the more ridiculous ones. This retraction goes to Stephanie Williams, quote, love child of Indiana Jones, Annie Savoy, and TV writer and verified Twitter blue checkmark account. Cue the retraction theme song. So in this retraction, Stephanie Williams originally tweets, this tweet has now been deleted, quote, Project Veritas is a grifting sham of an operation headed by a convicted felon. It's known for editing tapes, lying, and it's just a total scam. Stephanie got it wrong. I'm not a convicted felon. And Stephanie had to print a retraction. But this retraction is one of the odder retractions you'll ever see. Her guilt and shame is a sordid tale, one that plays out over a series of tweets, all within a few minutes apart. But in order to read them, I kind of have to sit down because it'll take a long time. So this is the first time in Retracto history that we will be doing this as a fireside Retracto theater. Stephanie Williams' responses to her retraction were so exorbitant, so exhaustive, that it would only be fitting to have a fireside chat reading them. There wasn't just one mea culpa. There was 1, 2, 3, 4,
5, 6, 7.
5, 6, 7. So sit back, relax, and listen to Stephanie go on Twitter and complain about how wrong she was. Stephanie Williams writes, first, quote, you guys, Project Veritas and James O'Keefe's legal counsel, have emailed me to let me know they would be suing me for libel if I didn't delete and publicly correct my previous tweets that called James a felon. So here goes. Check this out. Next tweet. James O'Keefe is not a felon. Thank you, Stephanie. I was wrong. In fact, he was convicted of a misdemeanor for one count of entering federal property under false pretenses. Well, there's a big difference between a felony and a Class B misdemeanor. Feel free to read more about his time cosplaying as a telephone technician at the FBI website. Stephanie continues, quote, I have since deleted my tweets referring to James as a felon, per the very angry letter James's lawyer sent me earlier today, demanding I do so. Are you saying you wouldn't print a retraction unless we demanded it? And I am publicly stating my mistake. I hope this clears up any confusion my followers may have had about James O'Keefe. And honestly, ellipsis, next tweet, she keeps going. I'm so glad Project Veritas contacted me today and encouraged me to clarify. She's happy about us contacting her. I encourage all of my followers to Google James O'Keefe and read about him themselves. All the things. All the things. I suggest anyone with time to kill or prolonged gastrointestinal issues take a look, including, and it goes on, quote, she just doesn't stop. As for my personal opinion of public figure James O'Keefe, and this is where she takes her skills as a, I guess a writer, a TV writer. What is she exactly? TV writer. A TV writer, and a love child of Indiana Jones and Annie Savoy. Stephanie Williams says, quote, as for my personal opinion of public figure James O'Keefe, I think he is a, quote, swarmy, thin-skinned dickbag with the credibility of a gas station hot dog, who uses the threat of legal action to silence anyone who says mean things about him. However, he is totally not a felon. What a weird juxtaposition there. Silence anyone who says mean things about him. However, he's totally not a felon. Okay, so what exactly, how am I silencing you, Stephanie? By the way, James, please inform John Sullivan, your lawyer, that I do not and have never resided at this address. I'll redact the address. He might want to use a better free background checker to get correct information. But aside that, he sounds like a totally legit lawyer. It doesn't stop. She feels really bad about this lie. She's mea culping in extremes. Quote, again, I can't stress this enough. James O'Keefe is not, capital letters, a felon. I was wrong. He was convicted of a misdemeanor he failed to disclose which then caused multiple states to bar him from fundraising. Whew. That concludes the Retracto Fireside Chat.
So as you can imagine, James O'Keefe is going to find himself under a lot of, facing a lot of, what's the word? Fire. That's the same one. 3 hours ago. Why doesn't CNN cover all the voter fraud stories out there? Because they justify their non-coverage based on opinion of one guy, Ben Ginsberg. If he, Ginsberg, says voter fraud isn't a thing, that's kind of the end of the story. Okay. So I think this is one of the tips that they have.
Despite our own investigations into widespread voter fraud, CNN President Jeff Zucker still labels Trump as a bigger threat to our national security. Play the clip.
These Erie, Pennsylvania allegations of backdating ballots were retracted.
Trump continuing to undermine election integrity with baseless claims of fraud. Okay, and he's continuing to do it. And that leads to the question of whether or not Trump himself is a national security threat in light of what he's doing and in light of what he did in the debate.
Hey Jeff, it's David. I just wanted to make one point about contextualizing Ben Ginsberg. He's without a doubt the preeminent election lawyer on the Republican side and probably one of the most preeminent election lawyers in America. He's also had a front row seat to every Republican election initiative for the past 4 years. If he says voter fraud isn't a thing, that's kind of the end of the story. And we ought to treat that as a definitive answer as we cover the story throughout. Our refrain ought to be, Ben Ginsberg was across us for 40 years and says it doesn't exist.
Next up. Okay. So the next tweet then is 4 hours ago to stay updated on all the developments as we continue dropping hashtag CNNTAPES. Sign up at exposecnn.com. That's exposecnn.com. Even more coming tomorrow. So, yeah, I believe that's the same one as we just watched. Charles V. Payne congratulating James O'Keefe on his latest project, listening to CNN deliberately craft an angle that stoke fear is simultaneously appalling and fascinating. Inferring delayed transition could lead to a 9/11 or exponentially increase COVID-19 deaths is unfair to the public. His next tweet then says CNN is more of a national security threat than real Donald Trump. Yeah, it's the same audio. Okay. 5 hours ago, CNN, let's attack Trump's kids over literally anything. Also CNN, Hunter Biden is off limits. Hashtag CNNTAPES.
The Hunter Biden story was an explosive blow against Joe Biden leading up to the presidential election. But listen on this 9 a.m. editorial conference call at CNN how President Jeff Zucker chooses to not cover this important story.
I think on the Breitbart, New York Post, Fox News rabbit hole of Hunter Biden, which I don't think anybody outside of that world understood last night, the Wall Street Journal reported that their review of all corporate records showed no role for Joe Biden on the Chinese deal. And yes, I do put more credibility in the Wall Street Journal than I do in the New York Post.
Obviously, we're not going with the New York Post story right now on Hunter Biden, and which seems to be giving its marching orders to Fox News and the right-wing echo chamber about what to talk about today. Obviously, Hunter Biden's lawyer is quoted in that New York Post piece, and we'll just continue to report out. This is the very stuff that the president was impeached over. This is the stuff that Senate committees looked at and found nothing wrong in Joe Biden's interactions with Ukrainians, and now having an email that perhaps there was a meeting with someone from Burisma is, it seems, Rudy Giuliani's sort of dream-a-vision of how to throw stuff at the wall in these closing days of the campaign.
Hey, Jeff, it's just David on the Burisma story, and we should be awfully careful about that, obviously. But I do think there's a media story of what in the world are Maggie Haberman and Jake Sherman doing, retweeting that story.
Just the double standards there are ridiculous. With that whole witch hunt against DJT, and then, I mean, not even reporting the Biden and all the stuff that's happening on Biden's side, and they're just like blatantly covering up, saying, well, they said that if Trump did it and it wasn't illegal after they tried the witch hunt. It's just the double standards are ridiculous. Anyway, moving on. Retweeted Jack Posobiec. Yeah, this is racism. New CNN tape. At CNN Senior Vice President Cynthia CNN demeans marginalized community, states she's terrified that Cubans support Trump. The Cubans, quotation marks, the Cubans are going to vote for Trump, and that's terrifying. Quote, I have to say, they're a population that's very attracted to bullies. Hashtag CNNTAPES. By the way, I just this is the English teacher in me coming out. She said, quote, I have to say, they're a population that's very attracted to bullies. She spelled there wrong. It's supposed to be they are, THEY''RE. She spelled it THERE. This is the senior vice president of CNN. But anyway, I digress. Little pet peeve of mine. But let's see what happens here.
The senior vice president of CNN, Cynthia Hudson, recorded on Jeff Zucker's 9 a.m. telephone call at CNN. The reason that Cubans voted for Trump is because they're attracted to bullies. Check this out.
Trump has used the communism, socialism rhetoric as part of his hook for the Cubans in Miami. How that has resonated and how the Biden team has not done enough to counter that. This is all that the only reason they are supporting Trump is because of that narrative. And that narrative and the fact that, sadly, I have to say, there's a population that is very attracted to bullies, and no one is countering it properly. In Florida, the Cubans are going to vote for Trump, and that's terrifying. And so I think that there is a way to counter the narrative in Florida that is not being taken advantage of. As part of his hook for the Cubans in Miami.
I just want to cover something just in case
and how the Biden
clear
team has
on
not
the
done
text.
enough to counter that. This is all that the only reason they are supporting Trump is because of that narrative.
Because of that narrative, they have in brackets, Biden is a socialist. So that is the narrative she's saying, that the Cubans are against and voting against, and rightly so. These guys know firsthand the failings of a socialist government. Mm. That's a popular video. So, not sure if this is one that we heard earlier on, but we'll check it out now. It says the only reason the Hunter Biden laptop scandal was talked about in what David Chalian called an echo chamber is because media organizations like his deliberately refuse to cover it.
The Hunter Biden story was an explosive blow against Joe Biden leading up to the presidential election. But listen on this 9 a.m. editorial conference call at CNN how President Jeff Zucker chooses to not cover this important story.
I think on the Breitbart, New York Post, Fox News rabbit hole of Hunter Biden, which I don't think anybody outside of that world understood last night, the Wall Street Journal reported that their review of all corporate records showed no role for Joe Biden on the Chinese deal. And yes, I do put more credibility in the Wall Street Journal than I do in the New York Post.
Obviously, we're not going with the New York Post story right now on Hunter Biden.
Yeah, so we heard that one earlier. I'm going to wrap this up very soon. It's almost 4:30 a.m. here, and this video is over the half-hour mark already. So just quickly go over some of these things that he's writing in his tweets. Unbelievable. CNN General Counsel David Vigilante calls for a, quote, media story about Maggie NYT, New York Times, and Jake Sherman, quote, retweeting the Hunter Biden laptop story rather than covering the story itself. That in itself, like, seriously, if you're still watching CNN, it's December 2nd and it's time for another batch of CNN tapes. Hashtag CNN tapes. We launched the very next clip, recorded on Jeff Zucker's 9 a.m. call at 3 p.m. EST. And we welcome legal threats. Say when. So there you have it. He retweeted Dave Rubin, who said, live in 5, I'm seriously fired up today, discussing the James O'Keefe Project Veritas CNN leaks, Biden's Treasury Secretary wanting to fix gender disparities, and a crazy long list of hypocritical lockdown politicians. That's on the Rubin report. Leaked CNN tapes. So, Washington Time has the article saying CNN calls law enforcement over Project Veritas sting, exposing. And there we go, 12 hours ago. Is James O'Keefe going to hit 1 million followers today? I'm glad I got to saw that earlier. 999,000. And now we have officially crossed the 1 million mark. And coincidentally, his account gets suspended from Twitter. But do check it out on Twitter yourself. It's interesting now. Okay, what I'm going to do is, while I'm here, I'm going to just refresh the page and hope that it's still there when I press refresh. So let's add to that 1 million followers. Following, okay. Follow Project Veritas. Very good. Okay. Refresh. Still there. Very good. Okay, so that's very strange then. Can anybody out there explain why that is? And check it out for yourself and let me know in the comments if you have the same outcome. Where if you go to James O'Keefe Twitter account on your mobile, it says it's suspended, that the account doesn't exist. But if you check on desktop or laptop, it's obviously there. So that's very, very strange. If you want to check it out, the address is what do you call it? Username is at James. It's basically JAMESOKEEFELLL. So that's at James O'Keefel. One more time. The URL, the address is twitter.com/JAMESOKEEFELLL. So let me know if you're having the same situation there where you can see it on your desktop or laptop, but it shows that the account is suspended if you try to look at it on a mobile device. So, thank you very much for joining me today. If you're still here, thank you very much for sticking with me. Like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. If you haven't already, then sign up at imawake.ru for the newsletter and for your invite to the new platform. Because my page on Facebook is it's on its last legs regarding warnings and all that stuff, so I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't make it to 2021. Yeah. So yeah, have a good one, guys. Thanks for being here, and I'll catch up with you soon. One love.